Good evening. Everyone hear me okay? Yeah? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm Beth Tacalco. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Public Affairs and Communications for the Department of Environmental Protection. And this is a public hearing of the New York City Water Board on water rates that are taking effect beginning July 1st of this year. We'll please be returning to the boroughs this year after several years of holding these hearings virtually. I'd like to thank the JCC of Staten Island for making this space available to us and the public. We've held these hearings here in previous years, and we've always found that this space and the staff is extremely courteous, and it's been a great location to hold these events, so thank you. I'd like to take a minute and ask that everybody place their phone on silent or vibrate in order to limit the background noise, myself included. So this meeting is being recorded, and once prepared, an audio recording and transcript of the meeting will be made available on the board's website and at nyc.gov/NYC Waterboard. We've also placed several documents in the official record, including a notice appointing me as the hearing officer, verified copies of public notices placed in newspapers, a draft of the rate schedule listing and rates and billing policies for the coming year, a public information booklet describing the proposed rates, and copies of written testimonies received by the board so far. The draft rate schedule and the public information booklet are also available on the board's website, as is a copy of the presentation you'll be hearing today. The program for today includes two sections. First, senior representatives of the Department of Environmental Protection will make a presentation explaining the proposed water rates for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, and then members of the public will have an opportunity to make a statement. The purpose of this hearing is to allow the public to present their viewpoints and opinions on the new rates that are being proposed. We're here to listen and to take notes and compile a record of the testimony. This is not intended to be a debate and will not be able to respond directly to questions or engage in open discussion at this forum. I have a list of public speakers who have registered to speak today. Anyone who wishes to speak but hasn't yet registered still has the opportunity to do so. If you'd like to register, please see the DEP staff at the table with the computer and the printer in the back of the room, and they'll take down your name and add you to the list of folks that are scheduled to speak today. If you'd like to provide any testimony but prefer not to speak, here up at the microphone, you can provide us with written testimony either today or anytime up until June 5th by emailing us at nycwaterboard@dep.nyc.gov. Or you can also mail it at 59-17 Junction Boulevard, 8th floor, Flushing, New York, 11373. Or you can hand a copy of any written testimony to one of the board officers here today. We have members of the Water Board with us today, including Dan Zarilli, who is the acting chair, and member Jonathan Golden. We're also joined by DEP's Commissioner, Rit Agarwal, who also serves as the city's Chief Climate Officer, and DEP's Chief Financial Officer, Joseph Miro, as well as the Water Board's Treasurer, Omar Nizam, as well as members from the Department of Environmental Protection, including Vincent Mattarella from DEP's Bureau of Customer Services, and Mario Bruno, an Assistant Commissioner for Intergovernmental Affairs. Before we get started, Chairman Zarilli, would you like to make any opening remarks?
Thank you. Thanks, Beth, for those opening remarks. I think it's really important that we're here tonight. I want to thank the fellow members of the board that are here with us tonight. Jonathan Golden, thank you for being here. And to the team at the Water Board and all of the members of the Department of Environmental Protection staff who do such important work to protect our drinking supply and protect our water here in New York City. And thank you to the JCC for hosting us here tonight. It's always wonderful to be back here at the JCC. So we're back here in person for the first time since 2019. This is actually the second time going through this rate cycle. Last year we did this fully virtual. It's great to be doing this in person and to be out here to hear from the public. DEP has proposed a 4.42% rate hike for next year. They proposed that at their May 1st meeting of the Water Board. The rate increase is not finalized. These public hearings are an opportunity for the public to provide commentary and testimony on that rate increase. So I want to thank the members of the public who are here to provide testimony. It's a really important part of the process, and thank you for being here. So these hearings are taking place this week and over the course of the next week to listen and to get feedback from the public on this proposal. We are very much, and I speak for all the members of the board, and particularly for Sheriff Carney, who couldn't be here tonight, we are very eager to hear from the public on the testimony and about this proposal. All of the testimony will be weighed carefully before the board makes a decision, and that decision meeting is scheduled for June 1st. So again, we're very eager to hear from the public in all forms. Here in the room, the written commentary, everything that comes in online, all of it will be weighed carefully before a decision is reached. And the board meets on June 6th. I think I said June 1st. June 6th is when our meeting is before. So with that, I think I want to hand this back to Beth. Thanks to everyone for being here, and particularly for the city staff that do such important work to protect our water supply. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Now you're going to hear the presentation from Commissioner Agarwal and our CFO, Joseph Mirren. Turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Good evening. I'd like to cover a couple of background components and then describe some of the work that DEP has done over the last year to help ensure that the water rate can be as manageable as possible. And then I'll turn it over to Joe for the actual details on the proposal. On the latest that we actually have. There we go.
There's 1 to 2 seconds. One would be projector to 2 seconds.
All right, well,
If you want to look at
let's see if it catches up. So it's just too far away. Just not having a good technology night. Wow, now we're all the way through. Okay. All right, thank you, sir. All right, let's move 2 on so we get to the city that never sleeps. So, it's important for all New Yorkers to remember that the water rate and the water bill that New Yorkers pay funds 100% of our water supply. That includes the 5,500 employees who work for the Department of Environmental Protection, who keep our water supply system running, extending all the way up into the Catskills. The people who work at our Bureau of
Bureau of Water and Sewer Operations, who maintain our distribution network and our sewer network within the city, and our 14 wastewater treatment plants, the sewage treatment workers and engineers and others who ensure that our sewage is treated in a way that keeps the harbor clean. Next, thanks, Omar. And of course, a large chunk, in fact, more than half of our water bill revenues go towards servicing the debt related to investments in our asset. DEP is an asset-heavy operation. And the reason we make these investments are for the 3 points on the screen. One, to keep the water running. We have ongoing multi-billion-dollar projects related to enhancing and securing the resilience of our water supply, protecting the harbor, something we're very proud of at DEP, that our work over the last 20 years has ensured that New York Harbor is cleaner than it's been in a century and a half. And planning for the future, so something we are particularly taking seriously today is what DEP has to do on an ongoing way to deal with climate change, both in terms of protecting the water supply, but also to protect New Yorkers from flooding. Next slide. As I said, more than half of the revenues from that we collect from ratepayers are actually used to service the debt on investments that we have made in the past or that we will be making in the near future. So that is the lion's share. It's more than half, and only less than half goes to the system's operations. And as you see on the right-hand side of the screen, our current 10-year capital plan totals $31 billion, which represents a major investment in the future of the city. And as you see, is roughly evenly split among pollution control, sewers and distribution in our streets, and then a smaller share for water supply, in part reflecting the fact that over the last decade there have been such significant investments in the water supply system. Next slide, Omar. One of those massive projects that we've been working on for more than a decade is something that we're very excited will come to, we expect, a culmination and completion over the next year. The bypass for the Rondell West Branch Tunnel, which has been leaking. It's the portion of the Delaware Aqueduct that carries 50% of the city's daily water supply, has been leaking for more than 20 years, and for more than a decade, DEP has been working to build a bypass around the leaking section that carries half of our water supply underneath the Hudson River. The construction for that was completed about a year ago. We've had some further work to do, ending a multi-year process to ensure that the city can operate on a full water supply with no change in quality or pressure or reliability during the time that the Delaware Aqueduct is shut down. And now that we are confident in our readiness to do this, we are moving this fall. We will take the Delaware Aqueduct out of service in October and have the bypass back in operation by May of 2024. This is the largest repair project in New York City's history, and finishing it is a multi-generation investment, ensuring the future of the water supply, not only for our kids, but for our grandchildren. Next slide. Another multi-generational project that is coming towards a conclusion is we were very pleased over the last year to announce what we expect to be the final construction schedule for the Brooklyn and Queens leg of Water Tunnel number 3, something that has been going on for the last 50 years. This will extend the redundancy and resilience benefits of that extra water tunnel. It currently serves the Bronx and Manhattan into Queens and Brooklyn, and it is over the next decade going to be another $400 million that we will be investing in that. Next slide. We've got a couple of projects to highlight here in Staten Island. Ratepayer funds were used in Dongan Hills to reduce chronic flooding. This was a $4 million project, and we're very proud of the fact that it was completed 6 months ahead of schedule. It involved a range of new water mains, new sewers, stormwater pipes, and a set of catch basins. We believe from the monitoring we've done after construction that this has significantly improved the drainage in that neighborhood. And then next slide, and I think of particular interest to our guests here, we have the project that has been underway in Westerly, where we invested $10 million to increase drainage capacity and prevents flooding. And there too, you may be the judge and tell us, but my understanding is that that has been perceived to have been quite successful. Next slide, please, and actually go ahead too. One of the big focuses that we have had over the last year is keeping the water rate manageable and ensuring that people who are genuinely struggling to pay their water bill have ways to catch up. We have, between the Water Board and DEP, we have taken a number of steps over the last year directly targeted at helping ratepayers who are suffering economic hardship. DEP's Bureau of Customer Service has been undertaking an aggressive marketing campaign around a New York State federally funded program called the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program. Unfortunately, the way that program is designed, individuals who are low income and have water debt have to apply directly to the state. The DEP has been aggressive in making outreach, letting people know if we think they qualify, getting them forms, urging them to participate. Because people have responded, we have obtained $24 million into the water system from the federal government through the state. New York City and through the Water Board, we have also created a LIWAP Plus program intended to a certain extent to sweeten the deal by helping families that qualify for LIWAP and have gotten their full federal allocation. If there is still residual water debt, we've created a fund to wipe out that debt. So it's an incentive further for them to help us help them by getting that federal money into the system. We've had a program approved by the Water Board that we've been implementing to help low-income multifamily properties catch up if they have water debt. And together we have, with these programs and the amnesty that we announced in January, or we started in January, and that the Water Board had adopted in December, we've undertaken an aggressive effort that has, for the first time since the beginning of the pandemic, begun to bring down DEP's accounts receivable. Next slide. The amnesty program, and I think this may be an outdated number, Vinny, it may be higher than 82 at this point, but we
Close to 90.
through, sorry, close to 90, yeah, I think so. We, knowing that during the pandemic, DEP's accounts receivable nearly doubled, we've been addressing that through this amnesty program that has advertised and aggressive about advertising an offer of forgiving either in part or in whole interest that was owed to the Water Board if people catch up on their water debt. Again, we've had thousands of people take advantage of this in one way or another. We've relinquished something on the order of $17 million in interest that's been forgiven, but it has led to an inflow of more than $90 million in cash into the system. And as you'll see in a minute when the Chief Financial Officer presents the rate, one of the main objectives of this was to increase collections from people who had not paid so that we can manage the water bill for people who have been paying. And along those lines, Mayor Adams was fully on board and supportive and directed us to undertake the first water shut-off notices in 15 years. DEP had not been in the habit of doing water shut-offs. We've identified a thoughtful approach to going after people who owe large sums of money in unpaid water debt, and we have now put them on notice that their service is at risk. I'm very pleased to say that with only a couple of weeks that we've been doing this, we've actually had to execute no shut-offs because once people know that we are serious, they pay up. And that has also been contributing to income into the water system that allows us not to have to raise rates as high as we otherwise might. Next slide, please. Another approach that we've been taking to bring money into the system and again alleviate the pressure on the ratepayers themselves is to take advantage of new sources of federal and state money that have become available to us over the last year or two. The bipartisan infrastructure law includes billions of dollars for water infrastructure. The Inflation Reduction Act includes significant monies for coastal resilience, for environmental justice, and for a number of areas, including clean energy. reduction that DEP has the potential to take advantage of. And the voters of New York State last fall approved a $4.3 billion environmental bond act that should include a significant amount of money that DEP could apply for. Any of those monies, if applied to projects that we might otherwise have had to do anyway, offsets the burden on the ratepayers. And one of the things that Mayor Adams has been quite outspoken about, and we will continue to be outspoken about, is the extent to which much of this funding goes directly to the city through formulas, and we get all of that. There are competitive programs run out of Washington that we are aggressively applying for, but a portion of this money goes through the state government. So even though it's federal money, it gets allocated by the state, and the state has placed artificial restrictions on New York City's ability to apply for this money. This is something that we have been bringing to the attention of the governor. We, of particular notice to those of you here in Staten Island, we've worked closely with Congresswoman Malliotakis to make the case that these restrictions should be removed so that New York City can get its fair share of this federal and state funding that's available. Because again, every dollar we get from the federal or state government into New York City's water infrastructure takes pressure off of the ratepayers. With that, I will turn it over to the Chief Financial Officer to talk about the actual rate proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everyone. So we're turning to the next slide, Omar, please. So this provides a summarization of, some of the information the Commissioner already gave, which is a breakdown showing what the forecast was for fiscal year 2023 and our budget for fiscal year 2024, which is the basis of how we came up with the proposed rate increase. And I want to, emphasize what the Commissioner already said, that the DEP's billing and alternative collection strategies have been, able us to keep this increase on the budget for fiscal year 24 within line to be able to offer the, the rate increase that's being proposed tonight. I will point out that, as we noted here, you have debt service at about $2.1 billion going up to almost $2.2 billion, increase of $50 million. You have operating expenses going up from 1.755 to 1.871 billion, about 100 million, somewhat over $100 million. Those are component pieces, being made up of the recently reached collective bargaining settlement that the city reached with the District Council 37, and which we're presuming will also apply to all the other city employees that work for DEP. We also have been seeing inflationary pressure on such items as our chemical costs, and we're also continuing to make investments in the billing system, which has also been able to enhance our collection methods there. You have other component pieces such as the water board and the water authority costs, which have gone up nominally, hardly for $6 million or so. So overall, that's about $172 million increase, which equates to next slide, Omar, where the proposed rate increase is the 4.42. So somewhat lower than we had, when he had it implemented last year. But as the Commissioner pointed out, the rate increase would have been somewhat higher had we not undertaken these measures to increase enhanced collections, to pursue the shut-off notices, to take advantage of the resources that are out there in terms of the federal funding and other sources. To emphasize as well, this is going to allow us to continue to sustain the system for the future, both in the immediate term for operations and maintenance expense, as well as to continue to fund the capital program and the bond proceeds that are necessary for us to be able to do that. Next slide, Omar. The other component piece that we want to talk about here is that this will mean a nominal increase in our eyes in terms of what the average family will pay. Right now, in fiscal year 23, the average charge to a single-family home, 70,000 gallons per year, is $1,041. The proposed increase will bring that up to $1,088. When you figure that out over a monthly basis, that's an increase of $3.84. On the average multifamily meter charge, that's going to go from $773 to $808 on an annual basis, a $2.85 monthly increase. The multifamily conservation program, those residents will see their rate go from $1,134 on average to $1,184, an increase of $4.18. And I'm, pleased to announce that we are continuing to, keep the minimum charge at the same rate, so there's no increase, and that's helping those that are often most needy, seniors, and those that, don't use a lot of water. I will also point out on the next slide, Omar, where the residential charges that we have here in New York City continue to fall into below the average of the 30 cities that we track to. Right now, for 2023, we were at 1,041. The 30 largest cities were at 1,390, and so that's 20% below what that average is. And we continue to track towards that same rate in terms of our New York City rates versus other municipalities. Next slide, Omar. DEP was also recommended to the board for continuation of the customer programs for affordability, $30 million. This includes the multifamily water assistance program. This would continue what was approved last year for fiscal year 23 to go from $10 million to $12 million. And this will enable us to continue to offer the 8,000 affordable housing units on top of the 48,000 already, to a total of 48,000, where they get an average of $250 each. The homeowner water assistance program, again, we'll have that keep at $6 million going to $14 million. And that's where a $145 credit, for those recipients that are eligible. 45,000 recipients are eligible for that. On top, I should say that's 45,000 on top of the 96,000. And then we continue the leak forgiveness program. These programs all told constitute $30 million of, affordability programs that we're offering to our ratepayers. I'll close with that this is our first public hearing. We do have 4 others scheduled for all the other boroughs, with the final presentation to be made to the board on June 6th. At that time, we will gather all the information that we received from both these hearings, as well as from any testimony that we received in writing or through emails, be able to present that with our responses back to the board, so the board could consider that and then make a determination whether they will adopt the 4.42% rate increase. With the next slide, Omar. And just for summarization, so we're 4.42% for beginning July 1st. Public hearings will continue through June 1st. Testimony and comments or questions are welcome with the information there. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it back to the hearing officer, Beth.
Thanks, Joe. So we're going to turn to the public testimony portion of the hearing. Looks like we've got 2 registered speakers. So each speaker will have up to 5 minutes. And we'll go ahead and start with Michael Morrell.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioner, members of the Water Board. My name is Michael Morrell, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Water Board for the opportunity to testify on issues raised by the Water Board's request for a rate increase for the coming fiscal year beginning July 1st. The availability of water for all New Yorkers is essential. Many of us take it for granted that water is immediately available, but as the DEP presentations have shown over the past years, there is a vast, expansive infrastructure that has been built up, which is an amazing feat of engineering. The cost of maintaining the operation of the water system is enormous. What struck me as a ratepayer after reading the details of the rate increase proposal was the gigantic size of payments that are in arrears by consumers. What the Water Board is facing is a collapse of the financial underpinnings of the New York City system. Over 200,000 accounts are in arrears, amounting to over $1.2 billion in payments. In the past, accounts that were delinquent faced liens on property and were subject to legal action by the city. The amnesty program offered by the DEP has garnered about $90 million of the $1.2 billion due. It seems that many consumers feel that nothing will be done if bills are not paid in a timely manner. The mayor has promised swift action to address non-payment of bills. The amnesty program expires at the end of May 2023. Any action on increasing rates should be accompanied by a robust system of bringing accounts to full payment. Absent such a program, ratepayers who always pay their bills in full may be surcharged an additional fee to cover the accounts of those who elect to utilize the system but pay nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. And our second speaker is Edward Malone.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm a ratepayer, and I have been paying for 55 years. That's 220 times I've written a check to the New York City Water Board to pay my bill. The 4.2% in sewer rates is the fourth largest increase since fiscal year 2013. But really, I'm not here to address that increase. I'm here also to speak about the $1.2 billion that let us call accounts receivable. On January 30th, I'm going to speak about 3 press releases. You've given updates on one of those releases, so I'm a little off on this, okay? On January 30th, Mayor Adams introduced an amnesty program which will run for 3 months and eliminate or reduce interest payment charges. Total interest charges on the debt is $150 million. On May 1st again, the mayor held a press conference to brag about the success of the amnesty program. According to the mayor, 86,000 ratepayers took advantage of the program and paid more than $80 million. You're saying it's up to $90 million now, I think. This saved those that participated $12 million in interest. The total number of ratepayers who owe is 200,000. A 43% participation rate looks pretty good. But let's look at the math, if we can. 86 million is only 7.2% of the $102 billion. A drop in the bucket. Leaving 92.8% of the 1.2 billion still on the table to be collected. Do you think the 57% that did not partake in the amnesty program will come up with the remaining 1.14 billion? I don't think so. The press release of May 16th, only 8 days ago, which announced the 4.42% increase, as a quote that I would like to read. And it's a quote from you, Commissioner, if I may. And this is the press release. In quotes, coming out of the pandemic, many New Yorkers were struggling to pay the bills, but more than 7,000 customers have taken advantage of our one-time water bill amnesty program to get back on track. Is it 86,000 or is it 7,000? What happened to the 79,000? Okay? Or are you just saying that 7,000 paid in full and took full advantage of the amnesty? I'm a little confused about that. So, in a word, what has happened? You're now showing that this fiscal year, you got $3 billion $3,999 million? That came from us, okay? And you expect $4.2 billion, close to that, in fiscal 24. That's coming from the people who continue to pay, okay? So, you know what? All the people who's paid over the years, we don't look for much. We just get our water, we pay our bill. But what I read here, everybody seems to be congratulating the people who haven't paid the bill and finally decided that maybe I should get involved. Maybe just a thank you to those of us who have paid the bill through the pandemic. 1.2 billion did not just happen through the pandemic. It's been festering for years, and you finally decided to do something about it. I hope you succeed getting the remaining 1.14, not million, billion dollars. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers to add to the list tonight? No? Okay. Well, we would like to thank all the speakers here tonight. You saw on this last slide that the next hearing is going to be tomorrow night in, here we go. The next hearing is going to be tomorrow night in Queens at the JFK Junior School in Corona. And the borough hearings are going to continue through June 1st. So this concludes today's hearing. The Water Board will meet again on Tuesday, June 6th in Manhattan to consider all of the public testimony here tonight and in the future meetings, and to vote on the budget rates for the next year. And if adopted by the board, the new rates will go into effect on July 1st. Okay, thanks everyone.